Awesome. We're able to register and log in the user. But before we can start working on other pages, there's something that we need to take care of, and that is the local storage. Because at the moment, yes, once we register, we have the user in the state, but what happens when we, let's say, refresh the page? Well, there is no user. And in this particular case, the page refresh represents what happens when the user navigates away from our application and then decides to come back. So we did set it up with register or login. Everything was awesome. But the moment we refresh the page, there is no recollection of that user. So what we want to do is set up local storage functions that will store the user in local storage, get the user from the local storage, as well as remove the user from the local storage, which is something that we're going to utilize when we log out. And once we do that, even when we refresh, we'll still have the actual application working. So there's going to be no issues. And just to showcase that, if I go to complete application, if I take a look at the application tab, you'll notice over here the user. So this is what we're going to do in this video. We'll set up these values here, and then once they're added to the local storage, we'll also figure out how to access them. So first, in the utils, we want to set up local storage.js, and in there we'll set up 3 functions. Add user to the local storage. It's going to be looking for one thing only, user, and we'll use local storage set item. Now in my case, I'm going to name this key user, and we'll use JSON stringify because we can only store strings over there. Then we'll also right away set up remove user from local storage. Again, something that we'll utilize when we log out. And I think I forgot to mention that we'll export them, of course. And also there's going to be one get user from local storage. Now, in this case, we want to check though. If the user is there, then we want to parse the result. If not, we'll return null. And at the end, notice I'm returning a user. So whatever the result is going to be, either I'm going to parse the user or it's going to be null, just like we have right now. And again, this is something that we have done quite a few times throughout the course. So I'm fully confident that you're comfortable with this. Then we want to invoke get from local storage. So basically we need to import that in the slice one, and we need to invoke it when the app loads. So this is where we'll get that user back. And as far as setting the user in the storage, we want to do that in 2 places. In the register success one, so fulfilled one, and the login one. So in both cases, we want to add that user to the storage. So let's get cracking. First, we want to create that new file, local storage here, JS. And as far as the functions, we'll right away export them. And we'll call this one add user to local storage. It's going to be looking for the user. And here, let's say local storage set item. Then let's pass in the user. And again, since we can store only strings, we need to go with JSON stringify and then pass in the user. Then I want to go with remove user. So in this case, it's going to be const remove user from local storage. And in this case, it's not going to be looking for any parameters. We simply want to go with local storage, remove item, and we just want to remove the user. And get user from the local storage. This is where we'll set up all of that logic. So let's go here with export const get user from local storage, and we'll set it equal to the function body, and then let's say const result is equal to local storage. So first, let's get that item, the user one, and we have 2 options. Either it's there or it's not there. Let's also set up right away user. We'll say result. So depending on that result, if there's something there, or it's basically, I believe it's undefined. Then we go here with JSON and then parse. So if something's there, then we'll pass in the result. If nothing's there, then we'll return null in the user. And then at the end, let's just say here, return and user. And now let's quickly switch back to user slice. and we want to get all of those functions. So first, I think I'm going to start here, where when our app loads initially, instead of setting it equal to null, I'll check for the user key in the local storage. And if you remember, the function we're looking for is get user from local storage. So we import that function. Now we do need to invoke it here. Okay, awesome. Then let's keep on moving. We have the user slice, extra reducers, and we want to go for register. And if we're successful, before or after, doesn't really matter here. We want to go here with add user to local storage, and we want to pass in the user. So the one that we're setting here in the state. And the same deal we want to do in the login one. If we're successful, let's copy this line of code. Login user successful. Okay, awesome. Let's pass it here. Now we're not going to use it right now, but there's also a remove user. So we might as well import that as well. And now let's test it out, where I want to go to my application and let's try to log in and then refresh. Again, I don't want to create any more users. I'm just too lazy to do that. So I'll just have to remember that my email is john12@gmail.com. And then as far as the password, I just need to provide the value. Let's click on submit. Okay, it's fulfilled. We have welcome back, John. And then I have the user object in a state. And if everything is correct, that value should be in the local storage as well. Notice email, last name, location, name, as well as the token. Again, this is the token that we're going to use a little bit later on. And what's really cool, that once I refresh, I still have that user in the state. Now, this one is a little bit acting up, but technically the user should be there. Again, let me go back to the state. Yep, there it is. I had difference. My apologies. So if you take a look at the user, notice once we refresh, we still have all of these values, which is just awesome.